All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to Music Impossible. Professor Jim. We're going to do a little added video to lesson 13. We'll call it 13A. And we're going to get into learning how to write notes by hand on the music staff. Now, writing notes by hand on the music staff is not a skill that's as necessary as it was, say, 20 years ago. There's so many different types of technologies and software out there that help us create very professional looking music for musicians, or scores for musicians, parts for musicians, like this Sibelius that we use an awful lot in this class. But having a basic skill level, just a foundational understanding of how to construct notes is an important thing to understand and learn. You never know when you're going to have to handwrite something. And I'm going to be using this tablet that I use to try and execute this. One of the challenges is it's really hard to draw perfect, nice circles or straight lines with this thing. It's not as easy, but let's start here. So if we have a note that's on a line, the first line here in treble clef, that's the note E. We have the note E. You notice that the line goes right down the middle of the note, or pretty close to it. That's the idea. We want to make sure we're communicating clearly with any musicians that want to play this piece. And so, if I draw an E that kind of looks like that, it's not really in a space all the way. It's not on a line. The line's sort of going through the note, and so it can cause a little bit of confusion. So ideally, when we do a note and on a line, we'll go up to the second line here, the G line. The note should start, the top of the note should start halfway between lines 2 and 3 and should end halfway between lines 1 and 2 with the line going right down the middle. That's about as clear as you can get, and musicians will understand that easily. Now, conversely, when we're looking at spaces, we would like for the note to touch both the top and bottom lines of that space without going over. And so a note in a space would look a lot like this. Again, the size of this note and the size of that note should be closer to the same size. Not really doing that there. There's got a really cool tool in this tablet that I use. It's a circle tool, so I can drag circles. So if I start on a line, I can drag this thing to the other circle and make a pretty consistent looking oval or circle. So rules of thumb here: notes on a line, we want that line to go right down the middle of the note. Notes in a space, we want that note to touch both the top and bottom lines without going over. Again, it's about communicating clearly with the musician. Let's look at stems and stem direction. So very quickly, just parts of a note. The circle part, we call that the note head. And then the line that goes up, we call that the stem. The line can go up or down. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And so if we're looking at the different parts here, we've got this is called the note head right here. Okay. And then the part that comes off of the note head, we call that the stem. So now that we're going to maybe start thinking about writing quarter notes or half notes, we have to start using stems. Let's start with a half note here in first space F, and we want a stem. Now, the question is, how far is that stem supposed to go up? Well, the answer is the stem should end an octave above or below the note. So this F right here is the low F. That's F4, right? So it's the F just above middle C, F4. And it's in space number 1. Here on line number 5 is our next F, and that's the next F above, because remember the musical alphabet gets to G and starts all over again at A, so there's lots of Fs on the music staff or on the keyboard. And so this F right here is F4. The stem goes all the way up till it hits F5 and stops. If we're going down, let's go up here maybe to this fourth space E, and we want a stem here. The stem's going to start with this fourth space E and go all the way down to the next E, which is the first line. A little bit of a crooked line. Let's try that again. There we go. And so that it goes from this E all the way down to that E. And so that's what the length of the stem should be. And the next question maybe you're asking yourself is, which direction, or how do I know which direction the stem should go? The rule is if you are at the third line, say this B right here, or higher, okay, or higher, okay, that means the stem is going to go down. So if you are at the note B or higher, so if you're going to go higher than a B, the stem would go down. In this case, we have a B here, and so our stem is going to go down to that next B. So if the note is below the third line, we'll start with that first note below the third line is this A, second space A. And second space A would get a stems up note and would go all the way up to the next A, which is above the staff there. Maybe a little bit too high. And the next A would be about right here. So that's a little bit long. Let's try that again. Maybe about right there. That's a little bit better. Stems up, stems down. Know which direction the stems are supposed to go. We are going to have some worksheets and quizzes on that. Know where the lines or the notes heads should be in relation to the lines and spaces. So all of these notes that are below A are all going to get stems up. All right, the last thing we're going to look at here is you're going to be asked to create a grand staff on the paper that we send you. And so we just want to review real quick. We have the brace. You'll have to draw the brace. We have this line here that connects both the treble and bass clefs. So we make sure we have the brace and the line. And then you also have to add your own bar lines here as well. And what we'll do is we'll give you a letter and we'll say, please draw all of the notes of that letter. So for example, let's just say C. So if we had a C, say a C whole note, how many C's can you draw on this staff? So in bass clef, might make sense to do that low C. And then we can do the C above that. And then treble clef too, we have a bunch of C's that we can do. Let's make that a whole note C. We also have the C below that. We can add that there. And if you want to, you can do the C above it. So remember, if you're confused as to where the C's are exactly, go back to those mnemonic devices we taught with treble clef, face. The spaces are the spaces, right? The spaces are F-A-C-E from bottom to top. The lines, every good boy does fine, or whatever mnemonic you made up for yourself. And the bass clef, we had all cows eat gummy bears, or all cows eat grass for the spaces. And then great big dogs from Alaska. Or again, if you made up your own, that's fine too, to help you learn these notes. So you'll be given blank staff. You'll have to create the grand staff and then a letter. And you'll have to write on your staff paper all of the notes that fit that letter. Now, you could certainly keep going. There's C's below that and C's above that. But I think if you get 4 or 5 total notes per measure here, I think you'll be in good shape. Good luck with all of that, and we'll see you at the next one.